night the hunter crossed the gates, the kingdom had already been dead for 100 years. No soldiers stood along the walls. No guards watched from the towers. No villagers walked the streets. And yet, something was watching him. A cold wind moved through the ancient forest as the hunter approached the enormous stone gates of the Forbidden Kingdom. His black cloak dragged across the snow. His armor carried the scars of countless battles, and an ancient sword rested across his back. His name was Kael. For 20 years, Kael had hunted creatures that ordinary men refused to believe existed. Witches, cursed beasts, shadow demons, and things that had never belonged in the human world. But there was one place he had never entered. The Kingdom of Vareth. Every hunter knew the legend. Anyone who entered Vareth never returned. Some said the kingdom was cursed by an ancient queen. Others believed something far worse had been imprisoned beneath its castle. Kael had always dismissed the stories, until 3 nights ago. A dying traveler had appeared at his camp carrying a silver pendant marked with the symbol of Vareth. Before taking his final breath, the traveler had whispered only 6 words. "She's still alive inside the kingdom." Kael knew exactly who he meant. The queen, the last ruler of Vareth. The woman whose name had disappeared from history. That was why Kael had come. Not for gold. Not for glory. He had come to find the truth. As he stood before the gates, the wind suddenly stopped. Silence covered the forest. Then the ancient gates began to open by themselves. Kael slowly reached for his sword. That's not a good sign. The gates opened just wide enough for him to enter. Beyond them stood a city frozen in time. Broken houses lined the streets. Old banners hung from stone buildings. Empty carriages remained abandoned in the middle of the road. But there were no bodies. That was what disturbed Kael most. A kingdom this large could not simply disappear without leaving evidence. He stepped forward. Crunch. His boots pressed into the frozen snow. Then he heard something. A whisper. "Leave." Kael stopped. He looked toward the rooftops. Nothing. The whisper came again. "Leave before they see you." Kael pulled his sword free. "I've been looking for you." A shadow moved across the street. Kael turned. Nothing. Then something massive crashed through a nearby building. The hunter barely rolled away as a creature landed where he had been standing. It was enormous. His body was covered in black stone-like armor. For twisted horns curved from its skull, and pale eyes glowed beneath its heavy brow. Kael stared at it. "You're bigger than I expected." The creature roared. Kael charged. The battle lasted less than a minute. The beast swung one massive arm, destroying a stone wall. Kael jumped over the attack and drove his sword into the creature's shoulder. The monster screamed, but instead of falling, it grabbed Kael and threw him across the street. He crashed against a stone fountain. Pain shot through his ribs. The creature approached. Kael slowly stood. Then he noticed something. A silver chain around the monster's neck. The same symbol as the pendant. Vareth. This creature wasn't attacking him because it wanted to. It was controlled. Kael raised his sword and cut the chain. The monster froze. For a moment, the creature's eyes changed. The hatred disappeared. Fear replaced it. It looked toward the castle. Then it ran. Kael watched it disappear into the darkness. "What are you afraid of?" A woman's voice answered from behind him. "The king." Kael turned. A young woman stood beneath a broken archway. She had pale hair, a long gray cloak, and eyes that seemed almost silver in the moonlight. Kael immediately raised his sword. "Who are you?" She didn't move. "My name is Alara." "Are you the queen?" The woman looked toward the distant castle. "No." Then she whispered, "She's my sister." Kael lowered his sword slightly. "She's alive." Alara nodded. "She's been alive for a very long time." Kael studied her carefully. "Who is the king?" Alara's expression changed. Fear appeared in her eyes. "There is no king." Then who was that creature talking about? She looked directly at him. The thing wearing his crown. Before Kael could ask another question, a deep bell rang from the castle. Once, twice, 3 times. Alara stepped backward. "They know you're here." Kael looked toward the castle. Thousands of windows suddenly illuminated at once. One after another. Across the entire kingdom. Alara grabbed his arm. We have to move. Where? Underground. They ran through the ruined streets. Behind them, shadows began appearing between the buildings. Not one creature. Not 10. Hundreds. Kael and Alara reached an old chapel. She pushed aside a stone altar and revealed a staircase leading underground. They descended quickly. The moment the stone door closed above them, the sounds of the creatures disappeared. Kael looked at Alara. Start explaining. She took a deep breath. Vareth was once the greatest kingdom in the northern lands. Our people were wealthy, powerful, and protected by ancient magic. What happened? My sister was the queen. Then, Alara looked down. She tried to make the kingdom immortal. Kael frowned. Immortality doesn't exist. It does here. Alara pointed toward the walls. Ancient symbols covered the underground chamber. Every person in Vareth was connected to the queen's life. When she became immortal, everyone else became trapped with her. Kael stared at the symbols. That's why the city is empty. Alara nodded. The people didn't die. They changed. Kael suddenly understood. The monsters. Yes. Alara explained that the queen's immortality had corrupted the entire kingdom. Every person who had once lived in Vareth became something else. Some became beasts. Some became shadows. Some became creatures that could only survive in darkness. And the queen herself? She remained human. Almost. Kael looked toward the underground tunnel. Why? Because she needed someone outside the curse. Me? Alara nodded. You are the first hunter to enter Vareth in 23 years. Kael laughed quietly. That's supposed to make me feel better? It doesn't. A loud impact shook the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling. Something was walking above them. Slowly. Heavy footsteps. Boom. 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 Alara looked terrified. The king's guard. Kael tightened his grip on his sword. I thought there was no king. There isn't. Then why call them the king's guard? Alara looked at him. Because they guard the throne. The stone wall suddenly exploded. A creature stepped through the dust. It was taller than a man and covered in black armor. Its face was hidden behind a metal mask. In one hand, it carried a gigantic sword. Kael stepped forward. Stay behind me. Alara shook her head. You can't fight that. Kael smiled. People keep saying that. The creature attacked. Steel collided with steel. The impact sent sparks across the chamber. Kael blocked the first strike. Then another. And another. The creature was stronger than anything he had fought before. Kael was forced backward. His sword cracked. The creature raised its weapon for the final blow. Then Alara screamed. A wave of silver energy exploded from her body. The creature was thrown across the chamber. Kael stared at her. You never mentioned you could do that. I never mentioned a lot of things. They ran deeper underground. Eventually, they reached a massive circular chamber. In the center stood a black stone throne. And sitting on it was a woman. The queen. She looked exactly as Alara had described. Beautiful, young, and completely still. Her eyes opened. Kael immediately felt something inside his mind change. The queen smiled. You finally came. Kael raised his sword. You sent the traveler. Yes. Why? Because I need you to kill me. Kael froze. Alara looked away. The queen stood. I have spent a century trapped inside this kingdom. Every creature you fought tonight was once a person. Kael lowered his sword slightly. Then why not leave? The queen laughed bitterly. Because the curse is bound to me. She walked toward him. If I leave, the curse follows. Kael understood. You want me to kill you?